How we going, guys? Box Mad here. So I just watched this interview on the DAZN Boxing podcast with Eddie Hearn, where obviously the main discussion point was obviously the Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury fallout, which we won't really go into because that's a whole other talking point which I could probably rant on for hours. But the second talking point was obviously who Anthony Joshua's next opponent's going to be. Now, obviously, most people will know it's Alexander Usyk, who's the WBO mandatory challenger for the heavyweight title. And Hearn was basically saying that, yeah, we're not ruling that one out. That's looking likely, obviously subject to the offer, etc. But one of the interviewers obviously posed the question that would Joshua consider vacating the WBO strap to potentially go on and have a different fight with another opponent? And to my surprise, Eddie Hearn wasn't against that idea. Now, obviously, I'm surprised at that because obviously the end goal has always been, which Eddie Hearn has said many times, that they want to become the undisputed heavyweight champion. Now, when I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, well, from a business point of view, you now know that the undisputed fight isn't going to happen this year. No way. A lot of people are now saying, oh, it will happen in December, don't worry. It's like, no, guys, that's not going to happen. Let's be honest, we don't even know if this supposedly July 24th Wilder Fury 3 fight is going to happen. So there's a question mark even over that. So the undisputed fight is not happening this year. No way. But from a business point of view, if you're Hearn, your goal going into 2022 is to remain unified heavyweight champion. So when you have to look at sort of risk v reward, you're saying to yourself, well, hold up. If we fight the WBO mandatory, we could lose all 4 belts here. And yes, I'm including the IBO here just for the sort of the purpose of what there is to lose. But if we just vacate, we've still got the WBA Super, we've still got the IBF, we're still the unified champion. And that's what they're going to need going into 2022 to potentially still make that Fury fight. You know, with the hope that, let's say, Fury is still the WBC champ. Now, look, there is obviously the argument to say, well, look, the Joshua Fury fight, that won't happen unless all belts are on the line. Guys, we may be at a point now where we might not be able to get to that point anymore now. The stars only align every so often. And the ship may have sailed as far as all the belts are concerned. Now, I think a lot of fight fans, including myself, have got to a point now where, do you know what? I'm not too concerned about the fight happening anytime soon because I'm kind of exhausted with seeing it all over the news. So maybe we do need now a bit of time just to let the fighters go their own ways. And look, guys, I don't know who's in the right and who's in the wrong. I've seen a lot of stuff over the last few days that has annoyed me from both sides. So we've all got our opinions, I'm sure. But it might just get to a point now where both Fury and Joshua need at least a belt in order to have a fight. So you've got to be thinking to yourself, look, if you're Eddie Hearn, if you're Anthony Joshua, is it just easier to vacate and keep 2 belts rather than potentially losing all of your belts? Because like I said, that's all that you can do now. You know the Fury fight's not happening, so all you can do, surely, is remain unified. If he loses his belts, you've got to remember, this is a different situation to what happened with the Andy Ruiz fight. Andy Ruiz was a voluntary, so there was a rematch tied up in that contract. Alexander Usyk, he's the mandatory challenger. And with mandatories, guys, there is no rematch clauses. So this is a risky fight. This is not a done deal. I know people have criticised Alexander Usyk saying that he can't mix it heavy and he's not got the punching power, he's not knocking people out. Guys, I've already discussed this in previous videos. To compete at heavyweight, especially in this era, you don't need to have knockout power. Yes, it's always more exciting. It adds to your stock. But Alexander Usyk can compete at heavyweight. He's not fought, obviously, elite heavyweights, but we know he can compete. I mean, Chisora is a big old lump. And I don't think he was getting thrown around the ring as much as other people thought he was. So let's give the guy a bit of credit. Yes, his best days are probably behind him, as far as he's probably not going to be as skillful or have that speed that he did at Cruiser. But I believe he still causes a lot of guys in heavyweight division an absolute nightmare. Okay, so that's the big question for today. It's risk versus reward. Do you take that Usyk fight and potentially lose all your belts, or do you just vacate and say, do you know what? Let's go into 2022 as unified champion. Let's see if we can make the Fury fight down the line. If we pick up the WBO again along the way, fine. But let's just leave it. Let's let it go. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, guys. And obviously, if you appreciate the video, click the thumbs up. And if you're feeling really generous, then subscribe. Cheers.